and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Start with a public hearing on the supplemental budget, resolution number 2019-05. This is for wrapping up fiscal year 2018-2019. Nathan, do you have anything you want to tell us about it?
Not unless there's any questions. I think everything's in order.
Any questions?
I didn't have any questions. Is it straightforward? I'm usually a question. Are you disappointed?
A little bit. You can make it. No, I think we're all aware that everything was on here. It's just cleaning up at the end of the year. So.
And most of these just look like funds that came in that were not anticipated.
Yeah,
a few of them. So pretty straightforward.
Are we doing the public hearing process? Do we have to do that? Is this
Yes.
counts for that?
Okay. Yeah, take public comment.
Yeah.
So the hearing is open.
Is there any public comment?
Is there any public comment on the budget resolution? It doesn't appear to be so. All right, I will close the hearing. And then is there a motion to adopt the resolution?
I will move we adopt resolution number 2019-05, adopting a supplemental budget and making appropriations for fiscal year 18.
I'll second. It's been moved and seconded that we adopt resolution number 2019-05, adopting a supplemental budget and making appropriations for fiscal year 2018-2019. Is there further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
All right.
That's clean. Okay, additions and revisions to the agenda. For those who are maybe wondering where Commissioner Wilkins is, her mother passed away last night, and so she is taking today to be with her family. And so we are going to make some adjustments to the agenda out of respect to her, because some of these topics I think she wanted to discuss. And so we're going to be pulling some things off the agenda so that she has an opportunity to weigh in on them. So some of the changes, let's go through them. I'm going to be pulling the 6.2, which is the dispatcher job description, off. I'm going to be pulling the discussed juvenile court jurisdiction off. We're going to leave the review and award North and South special projects grants on, but I believe there's just one in particular I'd like to discuss, unless there are additional ones you want to discuss, Leslie. I think the bulk of those we're going to end up taking when Sherry can weigh in on those. So just a heads up, we'll keep that on the agenda, but just very briefly. Let's go ahead and pull off the surplus of the 99 Ford Taurus. And also the approval of the salary schedule. And then in addition, we'd be considering, we'll put this under 7.5, which is consider severance for court administrator. Any other changes that you see? I think the 7.2 and 7.3 both have time things on them. And I think that is it. Okay. Any additions for you?
No.
Okay. All right. We will move on to correspondence and public comments. Start with public comment. Individuals wishing to address the county court may do so at this time and at other times throughout the meeting. Speakers are asked to raise your hand to be recognized by the chair, give your name and address, and limit comments to 3 minutes. Are there any public comments? Anybody out there? Doesn't appear so. Under correspondence, I just wanted to note that the court received an email from Les York last night asking for us to postpone a decision on 6.3, which is the chief of staff hiring procedures, a position profile and revised job description, and the juvenile court jurisdiction. Obviously, we pulled the juvenile court jurisdiction from this one. The chief of staff we're keeping on for today, and I will follow up with Les to let him know that that was our decision. And I think that's it for correspondence. So if I could, the consent agenda.
I move we approve the consent agenda.
I'll second it. So it's been moved and seconded that we approve the consent agenda, which consists of consider approval of June 5th regular meeting minutes, consider approval to apply for juvenile crime prevention grant, consider approval of IHA with Oregon Health Authority for community development disability services, consider approval of community counseling solutions service agreement, consider approval of letter of support for Gilliam County Historical Society fundraising efforts, consider approval of Gilliam County continuity of government plan, consider approval of LS Network's application for activities in Gilliam County rights of way, consider approval of property and liability insurance policy annual updates. Is there further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay. Catch up here. Get my paperwork shuffled here. So 6.1, Frontier Talent update. I really don't have much. The budget, or the board met for a budget hearing last week. It literally lasted 1 minute. We opened it, there was no public comment, and closed it. So we will take that up. The regular board meeting is next Wednesday at 1 o'clock in Fossil, and so we will take up, obviously, the budget. And then I think also be following up on the systems audit, talking about next steps on the AOC recommendations and a few other kind of housekeeping things, but it's actually pretty quiet on the Frontier Talent front for now. The other piece is that Frontier Talent, the board is going to move forward with upgrading or making those fixes to the Roosevelt site, the roof and the generator. So hopefully DeWireless was going to go out and get bids for those, and so it looks like it's in the budget, and so we're all good. And the county doesn't need to contribute to that. Great. We can fund it. So that was good news. And that is all I have on Frontier Telenet. And we are moving 6.2 off. So 6.3 is review and consider approval of chief of staff hiring procedures, position profile, and revised job description. So this is essentially the same document we looked at last time. The only changes that we made were the 2 dates, the August 7th, which is the first time that we'll meet in executive session to just go through the applications, whittle that down to up to 3, and then the 21st will be the day for the actual interviews, both our court dates. And then we went ahead and put in the names of the 3 individuals that we appointed to the hiring committee. And then previously there was a sentence somewhere in here about whether we would allow department directors to participate. And so I asked council to pull that because we appointed a department director, and it's a little confusing about what her role would be. She was appointed but not actually able to participate. So he pulled that out. But other than that, it is identical to what we reviewed 2 weeks ago. So any questions about?
I don't. Yeah, like you said, we just talked about it.
Yeah, not much has changed.
So I guess I would move to adopt the hiring procedures, position profile, and revised job description for the position of chief of staff as presented.
I would second. It's been moved and seconded that we adopt the hiring procedures, position profile, and revised job description for the position of chief of staff as presented. Is there further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay. Moving right along. Okay. For the special projects grants, and we'll discuss the bulk of these during our next meeting, which will be July 17th. So sorry, I know probably a large amount of you that are sitting in the audience probably came to hear that discussion, so I apologize for that. The one that is in here that I wanted to raise, because their project is literally being built as we speak, is Gilliam SWCD's request for their park. They would like to have that in by the 4th of July. And so the sooner we can release those funds, if we are approving that grant, the better. So the recommendation from the committee was to fully fund it pending their confirmation that they had received approval from the Planning Commission. And they have received approval from the city's Planning Commission that was actually there when they came and presented. So that piece has already been met. And so that's all I know.
And I'm good with moving forward with this one because when we discussed it at the last meeting, we wrote that, we all seemed pretty good with following the recommendation of the...
On that one, yeah. So, so I would move to grant Gilliam County SWCD a special projects grant from the South End pool in the amount of $20,000 for their Main Street Park project.
A second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we grant Gilliam County SWCD a special projects grant from the South End pool in the amount of $20,000 for their Main Street Park project. Is there further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay. So the remainder of these will be tabled until we meet on the 17th. So that way Sherry can weigh in with her thoughts. Let's see here. Forward. So we're on to new business. And 7.2, which is consider a Megan Morgan lease amendment. So this basically, Megan Morgan just would like to remove 12.5 acres located on the east side of Highway 19 from the lease amendment. The one that we have in here has been reviewed by legal counsel. He's okay with it, but he did suggest that we leave a little bit of wiggle room in the motion if we're going to adopt it in case Omega Morgan comes back with additional requests. So, so anyway, that's kind of where we are. Otherwise, it's the same.
Well, and they kept it they've had it for a while.
We've had it for a while.
That was good.
Yeah, and obviously they're keeping it, most of it. So, I mean, I don't have any problems with the amendment.
Yeah, I was surprised to get it was on the other side of the road. I move to approve the amendment subject to revisions deemed necessary and appropriate by legal counsel.
I'll second. It's been moved and seconded that we approve the amendment to the Omega Morgan lease, I'll add, subject to revisions deemed necessary and appropriate by legal counsel. Is there further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, 7.3. Consider extension of Kevin Hegwood water purchase agreement. So this is the exact same agreement and just extend the renewal clause by 6 months, which there was a provision in here that allowed for that. So it seems pretty straightforward. Kevin's current on his payments, and so anyway, that's where we are with that.
Nathan, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
How much are they going over?
Going over,
They were a backup. So
Right.
how much is he using?
well, for the 6 months, he only used 2 months, and the total is approximately 120,000 gallons 1 month, and it was 160, about 150,000 the other month.
That was questions about it?
That was my only question.
Okay. Then, are you ready to report?
Yes.
Okay. I would move to extend the water purchase agreement with Kevin Hagwood for a period of 6 months and direct legal counsel to draft necessary document to amend the current agreement.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we extend the water purchase agreement with Kevin Hagwood for a period of 6 months and direct legal counsel to draft the necessary document to amend the current agreement. Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, the salary schedule we are skipping for today. We just will need to get that approved in time for Ellen to cut paychecks in July. So we will take that up on the 17th.
She would probably appreciate that.
She would definitely appreciate that. And we will move into 7.5, which is consider severance for the board administrator. This was a request that our administrator made, I think, definitely to me, I think to Commissioner Wilkins at least, probably to you as well. So what are your thoughts?
Have we had this situation before?
We have not, that we have come up with. I've asked Ellen just to look back through and see if anybody previously that has left or, been laid off from the county has received that. It's pretty rare that circumstance even comes up, so we haven't done that historically. And it's not in our policy to do it currently. So, two considerations. Hello. Yeah, she is.
You almost missed it.
But we're waiting for a wind turbine that never materialized.
Yeah. So this position is non-represented, so.
Yeah, it's not represented. I mean, one thing we could consider looking at would be for our union employees when they retire or in case of death during their service to the county, we do allow to pay out half of sick leave. So that may be something that we could consider because there is sort of a precedent with that. We just really don't, I mean, layoffs are pretty rare for us, so that we just don't have a precedent for it, but this may be, that may be an appropriate way of handling it.
I would not be opposed to trying to do something.
Okay. So are you okay with are you thinking that the half of the sick leave is appropriate? Are you thinking of something else?
How long has the position been now?
About a little over 13 months, I think.
So when another employee leaves the county, like I guess a union employee, we then They get paid off vacation, right?
They do get paid out their vacation, yeah. And then depending on the circumstance, if they're retiring from the county, then they would get half of their sick leave as well. And that's written into the CBA.
So, I was just gonna say this.
It's hard when it's just the two of us. There's lots of people that fill the space.
Question on vacation day, sick leave, or
It's paid out at,
oh, I remember. Okay, came back. How much are employees allowed to accrue?
Sick leave?
No limit.
No limit. But payouts a maximum of 600 hours total, so 300 hours. Half the rate. But that's not really an issue in this case.
Right, I'm just curious.
Yeah.
yeah, that's in his.
And that's actually, it comes from PERS if you really want to look into it. But
Yeah, I would be okay with that.
Okay.
So is there paperwork, I mean, how, is the attorney involved, is there paperwork, how does it work?
So I think, given that we won't meet again before Sandy's last day, which is the 30th, that probably what we'd be looking for is a motion. If the idea is we would agree to the half of sick leave, which it sounds like we're in agreement. I also wonder if we want to, given that Sandy's done all of the weekends for county college, allow him to, there's one left to graduate, allow that to happen as well, which is, it won't be held until September. But given that we've already made that investment, he's gone to all of those sessions. But what I was going to suggest then is, if we're in agreement on the parameters of that, then maybe the motion just be to authorize legal counsel and myself to finalize an agreement based on those parameters, the half of sick leave, covering the cost for the completion of county college. Okay. So it's been moved and seconded that we authorize, I'll second, I guess. It's been moved and seconded that we authorize a county judge, myself, and legal counsel to finalize a severance agreement with the court administrator. That includes paying out half of sick leave and also covers expenses for county college. Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, moving on. 8.0, court member reports. What do you got?
Mine is pretty short. Pretty short though for the last 2 weeks. I went to a North Central Public Health District meeting on Tuesday ago. We finished up the budget. We adopted the budget. Did the appropriations, all that. We had a presentation. Terry presented a public health orientation presentation, which was good. We reviewed some contracts. We continue to talk about office space over there.
How's that going?
Slow. But I asked for the next time we have a meeting, I said, will you please take the other tour? It would be nice to be able to see exactly where they're talking about housing all the staff. She gave some information on salary survey from a couple of years back, but there was really no discussion, and that was about it on that meeting. I have a meeting today with the road committee.
Oh boy,
Yeah,
your first one.
my first one.
And it's fully appointed now.
Yes,
For
for
not
now.
any, for now.
So that's all I have.
Okay, well, mine, so we are working on scheduling a meeting with Fort County's on digging up the Building. codes reserves. We are looking at I think the week of July 8th right now. We're looking at dates, so I'm hoping we can get that meeting scheduled and come to a resolution. So that's the big one. I had a meeting yesterday with Brian Walsh at Avangrid, and they're interested in talking to the county court about creating a red zone. That's what they're called. And basically what it is it is an enterprise zone that is designated just for energy development in rural areas. And so in particular, it's basically a either 3 to 5 year where that's sort of tax-free after an initial investment. And in particular, I think they're looking at that because financially it works a little better for solar projects moving forward than the SIP agreements. The money works a little better for them. So Brian is wondering if we would be interested in discussing that more. So I raised it and thought if we did do it, that it would probably work best to do it maybe in a work session where we can learn a little bit more about what these are and how they work and the potential implications to the county before we move forward. So I was going to see if there was interest in doing maybe a work session before our next, prior to our next meeting, so on the 17th of July. If we might have an interest in that, but I don't know. I don't know what Sherry's schedule looks like, and I'm not sure. So just going to reach out to both of you as well and kind of talk a little bit more.
So red zone, is that just more specific than the standard enterprise zone?
Yeah, it's specific to energy. So it would, and so then there are specific limits on it, and the time frames I think are specific to this particular designation. And I asked him, is this typically a countywide thing? Could we pick sections? And I think counties have approached it differently. Sherman County just re-upped theirs. So Sherman County does have one. Foote County has one. I think those are the closest ones near us. So what I need to is just have you guys think about it and let me know if you're interested in scheduling a work session in May. Do that in July.
Are they on it? Is there some time frame?
They are interested because I think they're trying to market their, if Montague 2 goes through and it has that solar component, they're interested in attracting buyers to that. And so this obviously would make that a more attractive project if that's in place. So, but clarity I think is probably most what they're interested in. So whether we would be interested or not, so that they know what they're dealing with on pricing.
Okay.
And then Michelle Colby, our planning director, had asked if we would at some point be interested in doing just sort of a Planning 101 work session, similar to what we did when Amy came in and did the Juvenile Court 101, to just kind of walk us through these are the things that she handles, sort of what our role is in the planning process, all of that kind of stuff. So I wanted to just raise that. It's not something we necessarily need to schedule right away, but if there's an interest in it, and you may already feel comfortable with your role.
Let's check with Sherry.
Yeah, we'll see what Sherry has to say about it, but I wanted to at least raise that. Let's see here. I got a letter and had a meeting yesterday with Department of Environmental Quality. And apparently, the county was about 10 years ago supposed to put forth a plan for the John Day Basin Total Maximum Daily Load, TMDL, which has to do with water temperature and our contribution to water temperature in the John Day Basin. And so legally the county was supposed to have a plan in 2010. From what I can see, I don't think it was ever done, and it doesn't appear that DEQ ever followed up with any of the previous courts about it until this week. And so I met with the lady from DEQ as well as her winners from SWCD, because they work on water temperature issues all the time. And so I just wanted to kind of flag it for you that it's going to be something, a plan that we're going to have to write, and by we, I mean me and her, hopefully. And so we are going to maybe reach out to our neighboring counties as well, because Sherman and Utica County both need to have one and don't have one in place. So we need to try to do a tri-county plan with the 3 counties develop cooperatively so that we're not all doing our own thing. And SWCD has volunteered their expertise to help us write that. So I just wanted to flag that. The other thing, and this is just to put on your radar, is that Dewey came to see me, and he has been looking for bids to seal the courthouse parking lot and the lots at Scheller Station. So those came back to us actually, and I'm just flagging it. I think I will go ahead and put it on the 17th agenda so we can discuss when Sherry's here about how we would like him to proceed. He called around, and there's not that many companies that, believe it or not, want to come to Eastern Oregon to seal our parking lots. I know, I was shocked, but he did find one out of Ridgefield, Washington, who gave him bids for both. So we'll just need to figure out how we want to handle that. But he does say it needs to be done in both places. So, and I think that is all I have. Our administrative assistant position closed yesterday. There were 5 applicants in there, and I'm anticipating we'll do the interviews probably the first week in July. So, and that's about all I have.
Okay.
That's it. 9.0, announcements of the next meeting. So the next meeting will be July 17th in Condon. There is a Frontier Telenet meeting next Wednesday at 1 o'clock in Fossil. It's a regular board meeting, and we'll also take up the budget for 2019-2020. And any other announcements, Amy?
Get the Metro tour and meeting on April 7th, and Tri-County Court on July 24th. That Gilliam's turn to host.
All right. Anything else we did here? Any last public comments while we're sitting here? It's a very efficient meeting. All right. If not, I will adjourn the meeting. It's 1:33.